Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 3rd, 2023 Capital Improvement Board meeting for the City of Hammond. Would you please rise with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Moore.
Here.
Muda. Prieto.
Here.
Spitali.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Button.
Here, let the record reflect 6 present and 1 absent. Chair would entertain a motion to add an item to the agenda, being election of officers.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to add item election of officers to the agenda. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Moore.
Yes.
Muda. Prieto.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Button.
Yes. Motion carries 6 yeas and 1 absent. Chair would entertain, so for the listening public, the president's position is set by ordinance. It's the city engineer, but we do need someone to act on the president when he is absent. And so I would ask for nominations for vice president.
President,
Councilman Spitali.
nominate Prieto for Vice President.
Motion's been made for Commissioner Prieto to serve as vice president. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any other nominations for president? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. I think we will ask for a roll call vote just for to save myself on any proper action. So would the clerk call the roll on the motion for Commissioner Prieto to assume the or continue the assumption of responsibilities as Vice President?
Moore.
Yes.
Muda. Prieto.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Tyler.
I guess so, yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Button.
Yes. Motion carries 6 ayes and 1 absent. Next is the consideration of the past meeting minutes. Board, you should have received in your packet the meeting minutes for December 19th of 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore, seconded. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Warple. It's been moved and properly seconded to approve the meeting minutes. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Moore.
Yes.
Muda. Prieto.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Button.
Yes, motion carries 6 ayes, 1 absent. Next item on the agenda is a report on the work study session immediately prior to this meeting. At 5:30, this board met to review items on the agenda. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, funding. I'd ask Commissioner Moore if she has anything to report this evening.
Not at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, matter from mayor, council, and other departments. I see Councilman Emerson is present at the meeting and was wondering if he might wish to address the board at this time.
Yes, I do, and thank you, Mr. Button. I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. Initially, I hope the best for all of you this year, and we're through COVID. Well, we may not be through, but everyone's, I guess, adjusting to it as we go. So anyway, this is my wish list for 2021.
3.
I have copies for all of you, so.
He's going backwards.
sir.
Oh, I gotta hit
Councilman
that.
Emerson.
So basically, it's overlays and ornamental lighting, very brief. Tapper, 173rd Street, overlays 173rd Street to 176th. Mulberry, it's Tapper's relatively bad, closer to 173rd, but I'm willing to go with whatever you guys say, or gals, guys and gals. Mulberry, Calumet Avenue to Columbia Avenue, it's not good. Parts of it are good. It's like with all these streets, parts are good, parts are not so good. Forest Avenue, Lawndale to 173rd. I originally said Lawndale to the river, but actually south of Forest is not that bad. So there are parts that are really bad. And I originally asked for last year curbs, but that gets a little hairy. Some curbs are bad, some curbs are the height they should be, at least the height I think they should be. Ornamental lighting, Meadow Lane, 173rd to Ben Levin Drive. The problem with Meadow Lane is there's a lot of churches. St. Demetrius is near Ben Levin, and there's only homes on one side of the street, but like residents call me and tell me, it's dark down here. Bill, it's dark down here. And it is dark, but it's dark throughout any street that doesn't have ornamental lighting. So at any rate, that's my wish list for, and by the way, in the Army, that you have a wish list, and when you get to the reception station, and I was drafted, and I said, well, I think Hawaii. They have Army people in Hawaii, so I asked for Hawaii, and I didn't get it, but I got the climate. I got Vietnam. So they honored their part of that bargain. So anyway, have a good year, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Emerson. Fort DeRussy, I believe, is on Oahu, Army, one of the Army bases.
I didn't know that. Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri.
I know of that as well. Not that I serve, but thank you for your service. Thank you for your list.
Mr. President,
Councilman Werpel.
I have a question because this is my first meeting. Is there a certain amount of money allocated by this board every year for just overlays?
So the historical spend for overlays prior to this board was about $2.4 million per year. As you know, COVID created this board, right? I shouldn't say COVID created this board, but the result of COVID was to stop spending because we didn't know where the money was going to come from. And so the formation of the Capital Improvements Board was sort of founded through, thank you to the City Council and the Mayor, to sort of pull together overlays and other road reconstruction projects that could be transformative. Unfortunately, we haven't been funding overlays to the extent that we should or that we had in the past. So it's my effort to try to make sure we at least return to those spendings that we have in the past. Last year we were at $1 million, so that was less than half of what our average annual spend was. The year before was $2 million. So in the 2 years of the Capital Improvements Board, we're about a year behind.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
can you just review our policy in terms of supporting the district costs for ornamental lighting as well?
Right. So ornamental lighting is not the purview of the Capital Improvements Board. I think I would suggest that what Councilman Emerson is doing is presenting this list and then trying to get these projects funded. And so we would we would work with the councilmen to get funding through the council gaming as it sets forth in the ordinance for this board.
So as of right now, we are not, it is the policy of CIB to not fund ornamental lighting projects in districts. Is that what we're saying, or are we saying?
So the
Special-
ordinance, right, it's not a policy, the ordinance sets out that it's, the work is separated, right? So projects that can be funded with district gaming include ornamental street lighting, capital improvement projects, while they don't fund ornamental street lighting in their standard project. If ornamental street lighting is included in a reconstruction project, complete reconstruction, then CIB would cover those costs, right? So I would want to be careful when I say that CIB doesn't fund ornamental lighting, because on Chicago Street and other projects, on a reconstruction project, we will do lighting. We have not yet asked for district participation on those. I hope that clears, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily our policy, it's just not in the ordinance to have the CIB fund street lighting projects in and of themselves.
One more question. But if a district councilman came to CIB requesting support for specifically ornamental lighting separate from any other project, how will we handle that situation?
At this stage, we have never funded a strictly street lighting project. So I would look to my colleagues to decide at what method we would go about funding an ornamental lighting project through this board, right? So there's no policy decision on how to do that. We're just following the ordinance as it stands today.
The reason I ask is because I'm guessing the reason Councilwoman Emerson is in front of us presenting this list is the gaming dollars that we receive as district councilmen are going shorter and shorter, and there's ornamental lighting projects in all of our districts that we just don't have the money to do anymore. And so I'm assuming by him presenting this list to us, like you said, he's asking hopefully for support in the future because there are ornamental lighting projects that, you know, are $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 maybe that we just can't afford, that we would need additional support to get taken care of.
That is possible. I know that the last ornamental lighting project that we did district-wide consolidated all of the districts to do those. So we captured all the council persons' requests for ornamental lighting into one general project. I don't know if that worked out as well as we had hoped it would have. It certainly doesn't seem to be moving as quickly as we would like it to move forward. But those have how they've been funded in the past, is through district gaming.
Mr. President, along the lines of what he's asking, because I've been questioned about it, do we have a mechanism to replace the poles that have been installed and knocked down?
That's a public works action,
That's
right?
public works, it's
Yeah.
not capital improvements? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, Megan, do you want to, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Commissioner
Mr.
Moore,
President.
would you like to go ahead and address
Yes,
that?
so that's through Public Works. They actually have their own separate budget from our local road and streets, so it would be completely separate out of these dollars for knockdowns and repairs.
I've inquired before how we go about getting, lights that have been knocked down replaced, and I've never really gotten a definitive answer on that.
I would speak with Felix now,
Felix?
Felix
Okay.
Gonzalez, the new head of the Public Works Department, and start there. But yes, they have that budget on theirs.
Thank you.
For a time, we were taking spare parts as part of our capital improvement projects for street lighting. We would add 10% extra, so we would have an inventory of lights and luminaires for the poles that were knocked down, and so they should have poles and lights, a significant number of poles and lights available to do knockdowns throughout the city. Certainly not enough to cover them all, but if you asked or put it in the 311 app, you should be able to get it resolved.
The question that I was asked had to do with lights on Indianapolis Boulevard. And those are state lights, correct?
No, they are not.
They are not the...
They are not. Sidewalks, anything behind the curb, the state has the city responsible for.
Okay.
Sidewalks, street lighting, they're our responsibility. The state will not maintain those on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, would it be appropriate to just, in these circumstances, refer these to the engineering department as a formality to do scoring, and then we can
Absolutely.
discuss at the next work study session?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I would like to make the motion to then refer this to the engineering department for proper scoring.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, and properly seconded by Councilman Tyler to refer this to the engineering department. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Moore,
Yes.
Muda, Prieto,
Yes.
Spitali. Tyler,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Button.
Yes, motion carries, 6 present and 1 absent. Next, is there any other matters from the mayor, the council, or other departments to be presented to the Capital Improvements Board? If I may, I just might acknowledge that Councilman Ham is present in the audience this evening. Councilman Ham, thank you so much for your attendance. Next item on the agenda, item 8 is old business. Is there any old business to discuss? Seeing none. Item 9 is new business. Item 9A is funding allocation, Chicago Street Phase 1, final balancing change order number 37 with the Indiana Department of Transportation in the amount of $87,844.67. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Then moved by Commissioner Prieto, properly seconded by Councilman Spitali to approve the funding allocation. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? I should add that, as I mentioned, this is the final balancing change order. This covers balancing of quantities, of actual quantities used versus planned quantities included in the project. There should be obvious knowledge that those quantities do change, the amount of asphalt, the amount of aggregate material that's used. We can predict, but we can't accurately measure until we get those tickets certified and in. And so there's some corrections that are made by the end of the project, both in increase and in decrease. I would also say that we have expended all of the earmark available, so this amount represents not only the 20% physical match that's required by NDOT and our agreement with NDOT, but to fund the shortfall of the earmark that was part of the Chicago Street project. Is there any other discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Moore,
Yes.
Muda, Prieto,
Yes.
Spitali. Tyler,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Button.
Yes, motion carries, 6 ayes and 1 absent. Next item on the agenda is item 9B, the funding allocation, Dowling Park, Stormwater Improvements, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Section 219, in the amount of $412,500. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion.
Moved by Councilman Warple, properly seconded by Councilman Spitali to approve the funding allocation. Is there any discussion? This is a new stormwater outfall from Dowling Park Pond to help alleviate flooding in the southern section of Hessville that has been plagued in 4 of now the last 14 years of intense flooding as a result of heavy storms, more particularly May 23rd of 2020. The city has received $2.5 million in federal funds through the U.S. Army Corps Section 219 Water Resources Development Act grant to fund a new outfall, the first of a multi-phase project to reduce flooding in this area. This amount represents 1/2 of the local match. The other half, as Councilman Muda reported at the last Capital Improvements Board meeting, will be funded through the Hammond Sanitary District's Stormwater Fund. And we are grateful to the HSD to help us fund this project. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Werpel.
you may have answered this already. Is there a start date that this has to be started by? Like most grants where you gotta, what did you call it, a bid? It has to be let for bid by a certain day?
Yeah, so NDOT has a letting date. The U.S. Army Corps, I think they call it a bid opening date. It has been pushed back from September to November, now till January. I don't have a specific date on the bid opening, but it's very, very short time coming. The project's been designed, and this is our match, and they need the match before they go to the bid opening, and then I expect this project to be completed in the next construction season, which is in 2023.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Roll call on the motion.
Moore,
Yes.
Yuda, Prieto,
Yes.
Spitali. Tyler,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Button.
Yes, motion carries, 6 ayes and 1 absent. Next item on the agenda is public expression. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address the Capital Improvements Board?
Mr. Stoya?
Anyone in the audience wishing to address the Capital Improvements Board?
Long meeting.
Indeed. Hearing no one for public expression, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Capital Improvements Board is pushed to January 17th, currently at 6 p.m. I have no action items. That date and time might change depending on whether we have action items or not. So at this point, I would entertain a motion. If there is no other further comment or question, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Werpel, properly seconded by Commissioner Prieto to adjourn this meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. We're adjourned.